Hello, I'm Rob.
As am I. I am a Rob too.
Yes, and welcome to Marmalade, our monthly look back at the games we've been playing the previous month. So this is basically what we've been playing in October.
Yeah. I'll go first because my first one's kind of like an update.
Yeah, sure.
This is the third video we've done of this, and on the first one I did Judgment, the PS4 exclusive from Ryu Gagatoku, the people who are better known for doing Yakuza, and become very, very popular with the PlayStation 4 generation. I mean, previously they had some degree of success, but it was minimal. It kind of blew the doors off this gen.
Yeah.
With Yakuza 7 coming out, and they're really trying their hand at something else. Judgment's an old-fashioned Yakuza game, but I've really enjoyed it, much to the point where I think it's more refreshing than Yakuza, because honestly, as much as I love that other franchise, there's so much of it.
Yeah.
And it can kind of get a little bit wishy-washy. Not wishy-washy, that makes it sound like I'm sick of it. But when you played something for so long and there's so many editions of it and so many episodes of it, there's no real stories left to tell, is there?
Yeah, not only that, you run the risk of wandering around, saying, if someone bumps into you, go, Korra! Just wearing, white suits and just bumping into gangs of thugs as you wander around the streets.
What he said. But in Judgment, you are a private investigator, and the whole of the plot is it's around a few facts. A new drug called AD9 for Alzheimer's and dementia. There's a murderer called the Maul who's stabbing out people's eyes. There's the Toho clan and the Matsugane family, who are kind of everything revolves around. And they're stabbing out the eyes of people from the Kyorai gang. So there's lots of things going on. And honestly, I'm on the final chapter now. I played it for 40 hours. I mean, last time I talked about this, I talked about it for 3 or 4, if that.
Yeah.
So I've really got involved with a lot of the story aspect of this. And there's a few things that I want to bring attention to. I mean, one, I think the story is genuinely the best that studio has done in a long time.
Wow.
There's characters as well. You really, really get to know them. Yagami is who you play as, the private investigator who doesn't sing karaoke, so instantly he's not as good as Kiryu. Because he doesn't acknowledge karaoke. You've taken that away from me. But there's Kaito as well, who's his assistant. There's people who work at Gendo law that you're friends with. It's the same Kamurocho, but it's subtly different. I mean, lots of events take place around the best name for a pub in the world. It's called Bartender. Which I just love.
That's cracking. Yeah. That's brilliant.
But I think it's the private investigation angle of it. I mean, I think they lean a little bit too heavy on the tailing people. It's like a style of mission. Usually in missions in Yakuza, it's, alright, I've got to go there and I've got to punch that guy so hard in the head he basically glitches out. No, this one, you can tail people, you can chase after people. I mean, there's one mission which I really made me hate the chasing after him. There's a glamorous man, a reality TV glamour guy, like an idol, and he's wearing a hat. And look, it's not a hat, it's a wig, and the wind keeps on blowing it off, and you got to continuously chase after his hat, as he's put it.
Okay.
And he's a bit of a player. There's a trophy if you have 4 girlfriends on the bounce, and they all announce their undying love to you. So Yagami is a bit of a player.
That sounds a bit like that. You remember that Suda 51 game?
Oh, it's nothing like that. It's actually, that Suda 51 game, you got basically rewarded for stealing a look down the other woman's cleavage while she wasn't looking, which was...
Oh, yeah. I forgot just how creepy that was.
It was super skeevy. He's actually quite genuine and nice, Yagami. He cares about the well-being of these girls who throw their undying love at him.
I was going to say, bad Suda 51. Naughty. Hit you on the nose with the rolled-up newspaper.
He always was, though, really. But yeah, I mean, I really, really like your Judgment. I hope it's not just once and it's gone.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a nice... It could be a palate cleanser. I mean, they're doing this thing with Yakuza 7 where it's a game
turn-based
of turn-based combat. This could be a nice palate cleanser. The other thing they do, the thing which allows them to try the combat, because honestly, the combat in the Car Yakuza game is kick that guy really, really hard, or punch that guy really, really hard, or beat him in the wall, or stab him in the stomach, and then kick a knife through his stomach. Which didn't kill him, he just got a bad tum-tum. But yeah, it can be a nice palate cleanser because I genuinely have really, really enjoyed it, and the story is excellent and well told and brilliantly acted. And there's a bit where one of the characters, you think he's died, and I was upset, man, because I really like that guy.
See, you saying it's the best story is actually very high praise, because people might not realise it. First-time listeners might not realise it, but you are like the terminal Yakuza fan.
Yeah, being a fan since the first one was released back on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, and I know a lot of modern day fans who've only played it on like the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4. They go back and play the PlayStation 1 and 2 games, and then they go, all right, okay, this is not as good as Kiwami, so I'm going to go play Kiwami.
Yeah, you got to have patience to like those old games, because those old games are not well made. They're very broken, but the heart of them...
The heart of them, but the thing is, those games were designed to fill in the gap for Shenmue.
Yeah, that's what
they were designed to take over from. They were designed to take over from Shenmue, and they were a punt at the best of times anyway. The main developer of the games, he's basically said that he's not going to change a thing about the games because he doesn't have to. People like them or not.
I mean, the game is the most secondary part of the Yakuza thing. It's the mini games, it's the characters, it's the story.
Do you know what?
Just as long as you can kick somebody really, really hard, that's all that matters.
Yakuza has been getting an increasingly large following among female gamers.
Yeah, because Kiryu is like the most wholesome dude in the universe.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, what's his name? Eyepatch.
What, Majima?
Yeah, Majima. He's also an absolute doll, as I've been. I was watching some Let's Play videos with some female gamers, and they were playing Yakuza 0, and they're like in tears with Majima's story.
Oh, good on them. Majima deserves a good turn.
He's. I think the best phrasing was, Majima is an absolute doll.
He is. And the Hope Judgment is sort of like a second string for that company, because genuinely I've loved it. It's a bit too long, honestly. It's a bit too long, but I've loved it.
I've got to ask, how does the investigation part compare with the likes of L.A. Noire? Because that would be the nearest kind of
you got to scan for clues.
Yeah.
And it's more in the way the narrative unfolds than look at this guy's face. Is he gurning, or is he smiling, or is he smirking, or has he just dropped the juice? What's he doing? I don't know. The face is it's gurning. If you don't know what gurning is, Google that and then Google L.A. Noire. You can't tell the difference. They're the same thing. But Heat Judgment, the investigation is much more well paced, I think.
Yeah, I found the investigation in L.A. Noire to be clunky at best.
Yeah, what I remember from L.A. Noire is judging people's facial expressions and looking in bins.
Yeah, that was basically it.
And I can do that anywhere, frankly. I don't need to pay for that on it. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on to me. I'm going to start off with a couple of games that I'm actually reviewing or have already reviewed before I go on to my main one. Well, Cloudpunk is the one I've already reviewed, the review that is already out, so you can find that on our channel. But I just want to say, I've continued playing the game since I've reviewed it, and I've got to say, I'm surprised at how accessible a game it is for a Cyberpunk
It doesn't look
game.
it looks quite obscure.
It does look obscure, and it does look like it shouldn't be accessible, but it is very, very accessible. And I think one of the reasons for that is they've downplayed a lot of the sci-fi elements in favour of storytelling. So what you're basically finding is just the setting is just framework for telling a story, and that actually I think is the main reason why it's so accessible. And the story's not bad. I wouldn't say it was the greatest story, but it's not bad.
Oh, that's a great product there. It's not a bad story. It's not great. It's not bad. Oh yeah, rush to the shops and buy that one.
Well, it's not that. It's just in comparison to, say, I mean, it's obviously going to be compared to Cyberpunk 2077, which I think is very unfair. You know, I think it's unfair to compare an indie game to something that's had millions and millions of pounds thrown at it. I don't think there's any comparison. They're two very different games.
Technically, Cyberpunk is an indie game too, just a very different end of the spectrum.
Exactly. But I think Cloudpunk is, if you're a sci-fi junkie like me, Cloudpunk is definitely worth your time. You know,
looks like hard sci-fi. Yeah,
it looks like hard sci-fi, but there's a soft side to it, and I adore Camus. I think Camus is like the best cyberdog ever made.
Yeah,
because he sounds like Doug from Up for a start.
Oh, right, okay. Because I've just seen the footage from your review, so I didn't realise it was actually voiced as well. I thought it was just like text.
Yeah, there's a lot of voice acting in this, and it's a lot of really good voice acting.
And that's good, because it's rare to find like an indie game with consistent voice acting. They kind of use it sparingly or not at all.
Yeah, and the main one I've been playing though, over the last month, and I've got a review for this coming out on the 10th. The main one I've been playing is Sakuna of Rice and Ruin.
But you're not allowed to talk about that, are you? Because there's...
I am allowed to talk about it up to Chapter 3.
Yeah, it's a very specific embargo. It's kind of like on the PlayStation 5, how you can only talk about the first level of Astro, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Only one level. But yeah, go on. Talk about the first 3 levels then.
Well, I'm gonna be very broad with this. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin is basically it's probably one of the most Japanese games that you will play. And when I say that, I don't mean like fan service and all that crap. I mean as in folklore, history, that sort of thing.
Like pure traditional values, Japan.
Yeah, very, very traditional kind of values, Japan. The game starts off with a group of refugees who are running away from whatever they're running away from, and they get stopped on a bridge because they keep running. They have no idea where they're going. There's a big fat guy who is a samurai, kind of. There's a woman from a different land who has become a maid. There's a baby and a little boy and a little girl. And they're running across this bridge, and there they meet a very drunk protagonist who has a little furry folklore creature as her guide and advisor. And she's on the bridge because there's a disturbance on the bridge while there's this big festival going on in the kind of mansion of the gods. And she wants to know what's going on. She's wandered off because she's very, very, very drunk.
This is very Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, so these refugees have been waylaid on the bridge by one of their arch enemies who used to be a former friend, and yada yada yada. And Sakuna, who is basically she's the spoiled harvest goddess, and she accidentally knocks the bad guy off the bridge before wandering back drunkenly to the mansion for the banquet, only to discover that these refugees have followed her into the Hall of the Gods, and now they're running riot but she's the only one who knows they're there. So she's trying to stop them eating all the rice and stuff like that, and accidentally sets the granary on fire.
Well, that's like a cute setup to like an anime. What is the actual game?
It is. Well, this is the thing. The game takes place on the Island of Devils, where Sakuna has been banished to, because she basically has been causing trouble and got too drunk for her own good. And these refugees have to come with her, and now she has to reclaim the land. Now, this is where the game is very different to what I expected.
Remember the first 3 chapters only.
Yeah, I know the first 3 chapters. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the game itself. See, Sakuna's power depends on the amount of rice that you plant and harvest, right? So, in a sense, it's a bit like Harvest Moon and Rune Factory and stuff like that. Only, it's not. It's completely different. It's a basic Common Garden Metroidvania-type platform game where you play as Sakuna and you go around different levels, fighting monsters, gathering resources, stuff like that. And you basically have a field. You have to plant the rice, as in plant the rice, so you have to literally go down the line. You can offer the job, you can hand the job over to someone else, but if you hand the job over to someone else, you don't get the bonuses.
Yeah, because sake is rice wine, isn't it? If people didn't know.
Yeah, sake is rice wine. So you have to plant the rice, and and you basically try. The first time I planted the rice, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and then I started planting it, and I was like, okay, I've gone way offline here, because it just ended up in like a weird zigzag squiggle pattern with rice all over the place while I was planting. Then you have to monitor the amount of water that's in the paddy field. And then you have to harvest the rice, and then you have to thresh the rice. Then you have to pound the rice to get rid of all the husks on it and make it white rice. You literally have to do all these tasks.
Well, you are like in hog heaven there, though, aren't you?
Yeah, it was totally my jam. I was like, I am not bored at all. This is exactly what I want, the type of game for me. Every so often I just run around different levels, killing monsters, and then go back and start threshing rice and pounding the rice and making it white rice and getting bonuses. I'm like, I feel a sense of accomplishment here. But so far it's totally been my jam.
That's cool. I want to change pace entirely and talk about a game from Housemarque.
Oh?
Nex Machina.
Ooh.
I can't really talk about this one a great deal, but it's essentially a twin-stick shooter in the vein of Super Smash TV, or... Well, that's not a twin-stick shooter, but it has that sort of same approach where you go from arena to arena and things get more difficult from arena to arena, and you got to save like humans, which this company did like Resogun at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 generation, so it's got that saving humans aspect that's consistent throughout it. There's too many of this type of game on the indie market. I'm going to be perfectly open and say it. There's just too many twin-stick shooters. Yeah,
the irony is I've got a twin-stick shooter that I've been playing as well. But...
It's kind of vanilla. It's become, I don't know whether it's a term, but I'm going to pen it. It's vanillaware. It's kind of like Metroidvania is indie game vanillaware.
Yeah.
As in, they're inspired by it, and that's fine, but there's just way too many of them. And I think Nex Machina sort of rises above the lot, really. In the sense that it's not trying to be anything, which it isn't. It's a pure arcade game, all about sort of high scores. It's very well designed, sort of level-wise. You can just play it through straight, and like shooting on the monsters. Most of the monsters are off pretty easily. If you shoot boxes, you get bigger guns and more powerful rays that go further, and more of a spread with your bullets or your energy bullets, because this is a sci-fi shooter which you shoot robots after all. But there's certain bits around the level where you shoot them, you unlock different ways to escape the level. You unlock hidden levels, so it keeps things fresh, and also it's got the most gorgeous particle effects. Like at the end of a level when you defeat a boss and the boss just sort of explodes. I mean, it's bad enough that the further into the game you get, the bosses just basically shoot everything at you. Like literally, it's a bullet hell game in those bosses. They shoot everything at you. Like your R-types, like your Gradiuses, like all this. Those, when that screen gets full, it gets full. If you remember, Rob, because you got history with them more than I've got history with them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've not played Nex Machina yet.
I got it from like a previous like PSN sale for like a few quid, and it's infinitely worth it. It's made me really intrigued about Housemarque's like PlayStation 5 exclusive, because when I first saw the trailer for Returnal, I thought, oh, that looks like Housemarque trying to do something different. Break away from their sort of twin-stick shooter hell games. Do something narrative-based. But then I played one of their infinite bullet hell shooter games. And even though I think they've admitted themselves that they can't make that sort of 2D game, that 2D indie game, because it's not financially viable for them. If they want to grow it, it's not financially viable to continue to do those games and grow. Doing that within sort of like a AAA spec marketplace, I think is really interesting, because we've said this before on this show, on Impossible Mission, on other things, that AAA games are kind of all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And to see a game company who trade in this sort of stuff, this bullet hell game, this such crisp gameplay, if you die in Nex Machina, it's not because the game was unfair, it's because, well, it's so intense.
You weren't good enough.
It's so intense that your thumbs slip off the thumb pads.
You weren't good enough, in other words.
I wasn't good enough, but you get better. I mean, it's about having eyes in the back of your head as well, because you can sort of, you got like a zoom or rush mode or whatever, you can sort of get past like a laser beam, and you got to pay attention to everything, because everything is firing off everything at certain points of the game, and things explode into other things. So it keeps you on your toes, and going back to Returnal, I don't think there's anything even remotely like that in the AAA space. So I'm looking forward to that more than I'm looking forward to just another open world action adventure, which I never thought when I first saw it.
Cool.
But I would recommend people play Nex Machina if they haven't already, because it's probably one of the best examples of these twin-stick, top-down, sci-fi, infinite bullet hell games. I had a great amount of fun with it. And also I hate it. I love it and I hate it, because that's the sort of little space that these games occupy, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the space these games occupy. I mean, did you ever play Geometry Wars?
I'm not sure, no.
Geometry Wars was always a fun twin-stick shooter where... and I mean, it was minimal on the graphics, but it was, like, top-notch for gameplay.
You don't really play these for the graphics, though, do you? Let's be honest.
No, you don't. But, talking of twin-stick shooters, right, I've also been playing a twin-stick shooter, which, well, I don't know if I've not played Nex Machina, so I don't know how it stands up. But I will say that I wanted more from this, even though it was fun for a while. Well, yeah. It's the kind of fun that gets boring.
Yeah, I mean, these games are the very definition of I'm going to put this on for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then leave it.
Yeah, but I mean, from this, I definitely wanted more. I mean, this is from 10 Tons, and it's Tesla versus Lovecraft. And as soon as I saw the title, because I picked this up cheap on sale as well.
Yeah, as
soon as I saw the title, I thought, this could be the battle of the ages. Tesla versus Lovecraft.
I'm sorry, but this isn't even remotely on Nex Machina's level. I'm not being like elitist or anything. It's just this hasn't made any sort of impact. This is just you being compelled by a title, isn't it?
Yeah, it is me being... But I mean, what a title. Tesla versus Lovecraft. Yeah. I mean, Nikola Tesla versus H.P. Lovecraft.
It sounds like it's an episode of historical...
epic rap battles of history.
Well, I'm going to go with that. I was going to go with celebrity deathmatch, but yeah.
Epic rap battles of history, celebrity deathmatch, whatever, right? The problem is that, see, Nikola Tesla, the game starts off fairly simple, right? Nikola Tesla is demonstrating one of his devices, and H.P. Lovecraft stands up from the audience and says, "You're messing with forces you cannot comprehend," and then he gets taken away and put in prison, and then his eyes glowing behind me, see Cthulhu, and I'm like, oh, this looks good. And then it starts, and I'm like, okay, right, so it's a twin-stick shooter. I've got to basically go through these very, very short levels, and I'm getting very easy trophies, and I'm getting power-ups.
Oh, it's one of those, is it?
See, this is where I hit a problem, right? This is there's two aspects to this game. 10 Tons have done a perfectly fine job on the twin-stick shooter aspect of it, and on the gameplay aspect of it, fine, no problem there. What I hated about this game was that every single level, I had to start off with the basic revolver and basically power myself up as the level goes along, and that annoyed the crap out of me.
I'll be honest,
as the game,
just on that point, these games don't really suit being in the real world, because if it's a revolver, you have to reload, and it's kind of constant and relentless, and I don't think you can be constant and relentless with real world historically accurate weapons, if that's what they are anyway.
Well, the thing is, you got a manual fire mode and an auto fire mode. I had to change it to auto fire mode because it was just too cumbersome with the revolver on manual fire mode. So I switched it to auto fire mode, which made the job a lot easier. And I would advise people to play the game with auto fire mode enabled. And the main reason for that is because the game quickly ramps up the difficulty, and you end up with swarms and swarms of deep ones, or whatever they're called in the Cthulhu thing. I've forgotten. Just attacking Tesla, who eventually builds his own mech, and then he can take out loads and loads of enemies with his mech, but his mech gets damaged, so he has to get the parts again, rebuild it, yada yada yada, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And nowhere in all of that is the story progressing in any meaningful way, because the base premise is Tesla versus Lovecraft, and that's it. It doesn't really build on any aspect of the story or anything like that. And that annoyed the crap out of me. Because I was playing it for a while. I was like, so when do I find out what's actually going on? Why does Lovecraft why is he possessed by Cthulhu? Why is this? Why is that? Why is the other? And I'm asking these questions and the game's not telling me. And it's also resetting me to 0 every single level, which pisses me off. I'm like,
yeah,
why?
I mean, you don't set up a story and then refuse. I mean, that's why I like Nex Machina, because there's no sort of idea that there is no story. It's just, there's robots, you gotta shoot the robots, and you gotta save the humans, go.
And if they'd started off with Nikola Tesla and H.P. Lovecraft hated each other, they weren't in the same time period, but they still hated each other.
Yeah, I mean, if you set up a story, follow it through.
And if you're going to do a game like this, where I've got power-ups and power-ups and power-ups, I'm going to be fighting hordes of monsters, then at least give me access to some of the power-ups at the beginning of the level.
Is there any sort of sci-fi? Is there any sci-fi weaponry beyond the like your mechs?
Yeah, you end up with sci-fi weaponry later on, but the problem is you start every level at level 1. Every level.
Yeah, what's the point in levels if you're doing that then? If you're resetting
what's the point in
levels?
using RPG elements if you're just going to reset them every level?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That's just willfully confusing and annoying, that, I guess.
So you can imagine I would have rather been playing Nex Machina from your description of it.
Yeah, because it's pure arcade experience. It's pure arcade Nirvana, which I love as much as I hate, because I'm bad at it, but it's also really good.
So Tesla versus Lovecraft, you annoyed the crap out of me, played you for a while, and I hate you. Hate you.
Nex Machina is one of these games where you could end up playing it for like hundreds of hours and not realising it because you're just dipping in for 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there.
Yeah.
It's like old arcade games used to be.
Yeah, like all the arcade games used to be. I mean, I'm not the type of person who, if I hate a game, I'm going to keep playing it just because I'm a glutton for punishment or I'm some kind of masochist. And Tesla versus Lovecraft, it sold me on the name. Yeah. You lied to me, 10 tons. You lied to me.
Yeah, this is why you should always, on those sales when games are really cheap, be doubly wary.
Well, I checked the reviews of it on Steam, and the reviews are very positive. Lots of people saying it's a great twin-stick shooter. It's a fun game, and
Well, they're clearly wrong. Maybe anyway.
I question the logic of the people saying that this is a fun game. It's a fun game for a short period of time until you realise that you're not getting any real benefit from it. Not giving anything back. It's taking. It's like being in a bad relationship.
Anyhow, getting off that soapbox, I think, is my last game of the month. Gris.
Is it GRS or GRIS?
GRIS, yes. This is from Nomada, put out by Devolver, played on PlayStation 4. I'm not sure about this, I'll be honest. This is one of these games where it's absolutely honkingly stunning art style first. Game about third. Because it sets you up. You're this girl who is a girl, right? And she's got arms and she's got legs and she wears a dress and she's got hair. And she's on this big hand, right? And the big hand collapses, right? And then you got to go off and collect colours to get colours back into the world. And you get little semblances and memories along the way. And the thing that bugs me about this is, I know it's nice that the game won't hold your hand, but at the same time, you land and you can go left and you can go right, and there's no sort of... I don't want a hook to drag me along in the game and tell me where to go, but a hint to direct you, because for the large part, it's fairly self-explanatory. You know where you're going, you know what you're doing. Even if it's just by fluke, say, I'm going to go right. I'm just going to wander, see what happens. I'm just going to wander and wander and wander. I wonder what happens. I wonder what's over there. And then you'll eventually do the thing that you need to. But sometimes you'll get to a point where it'll introduce new gameplay aspects, and it won't tell you about the new gameplay aspects. And you'll wonder, why am I here? What am I doing exactly? I can press square and her dress goes big and she gets heavy and crashes through things, but there's nothing here to do that with. Where am I? What am I doing? And it's kind of frustrating. It's not the sort of game that I'm enjoying in any way, shape or form. I mean, critically acclaimed it may be, stunning it may be, well designed it may be, but the fact that it refuses to acknowledge with sort of some basic gameplay conceits, like, telling you why and where.
Yeah.
So, using that sort of metaphor, you're just walking through it going, what? 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 Who? What? It's kind of confusing. Does that make sense, or am I kind of just...
Yeah, it makes total sense, and I'm also freaking out a little bit here.
Why?
We must have been affected. There must have been some Halloween voodoo or something like that affecting both of us this last month.
Why?
Because we both started off with a game that's totally our jam, right?
Yeah.
We've gone on to a twin-stick shooter.
Yeah.
And my final game is basically like yours.
Oh, wow.
No instructions, doesn't tell me what to do, and I was confused all the way through. Gameplay was very, very minimal. Art style was phenomenal. Gameplay was minimal.
Here's the thing with this sort of thing, though. I'm not going to let you get into your game yet, but I'm just going to finish on this thought, because there's not really much to say about this. There really isn't that much to talk about, other than what I've just talked about. It doesn't tell you anything, but it looks stunning.
Yeah.
Art design, minimal. General look of the game, gorgeous. Music, minimal. But the thing is, when you don't give people a reason to go through the game, what's compelling them to go through the game?
Yeah.
What's compelling you to finish the game when there's no story, there's no, little emotional hook? It's just, here is a world, put the colour back in it, restore it. If you have no reason to be compelled to complete it, why would somebody be compelled to complete it? If you get me?
Yeah.
And Gris is, for all the well-intentions in the world, I just don't care. I'll be honest. Which sounds really harsh. But, yeah, you need that hook, that push. And this doesn't have it.
Yeah, it gets even worse. My game also begins with a G.
Oh, man, what is it? Go on.
Gorogoa.
Ah, okay. That's a pity, because that looked really fun, that one. Well, not fun, but really interesting.
It is, that's the thing. It is interesting, but it doesn't tell you anything. As in, nothing. Nada. Mega negatory. And you don't get any instructions whatsoever. You have to figure it all out yourself. And it starts off with a boy looking out of a window, and there's a weird thing that kind of has fins, and you have to identify what it is first. And then you have to do like a prayer to it that involves a ball with different coloured fruit in it, like 5 different coloured fruit. And then you have to go through these things where I'm sitting there and I'm playing this. I'm going, so okay, I have to find a yellow thing now. Where do I find the yellow thing? And you have to click on different parts of the picture. But then once you've got to a certain part of the picture, you can move the top layer of that picture to a different part of the 2x2 grid. And then you've got an underlying picture that you can then manipulate to do other things. And then you overlay the pictures to get different effect. And I'm like, where's the instructions?
I'm confused.
Nobody tells me to do this.
I'm confused, Rob.
So yeah, imagine what it's like playing it.
I mean, when you go back to Gris, it feels it plays well.
See,
but,
this is the thing.
all that, what you said.
Yeah, this is the thing. Gorogoa, to all intents and purposes, it does play well, and the artwork is amazing. You know, it's beautiful. I mean, this is probably one of the prettiest games that I've ever seen.
Oh wow, that's a big claim.
And, well, I mean, when you look at the artwork, when you look at the detail in it, and the fact that it looks like a kid's... when I say pretty, I don't mean pretty as in, like, it's, you know, it's something that is going to be on magazine covers and stuff like that. I mean pretty as in, it's like a children's picture book that you're playing.
Yeah.
Right? A really high-quality children's picture book. You know, the kind of illustrations that they put for, like, really high-quality copies of, like, Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or Winnie the Pooh. That sort of level of artwork. It's been out for a couple of years, right? And you'd think after a couple of years, enough people would have told Jason Roberts, the guy who developed it, to maybe add some instructions so people know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a basic aspect, isn't it? I mean, there's instructions to Gris. It's like, X is jump, square is do a move. That's it. Really.
I've got to say, Gorogoa is one of those games where it's exactly like you with Nex Machina. I kind of love it and I kind of hate it at the same time.
It's very different.
I really want to know.
Yeah,
it's very different in terms of the game, but definitely the same sentiments. I really want to know what happens next. I really want to figure out the next puzzle because it's annoying me, and it's like having that tickle at the back of your brain where you're like, I've got to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, I think you might have a problem there, Rob.
And it's really pretty to look at, so it's a lot more rewarding because it is so pretty to look at, right?
Yeah.
But I know that ultimately I will basically solve the puzzle, and I'll just be sitting there going, okay, so another puzzle then.
Is it got no variation in what you do? I mean, at least with Gris, when you add a new colour, the world changes and different things are introduced into it. So,
well, this is the thing: when you're putting a picture over a picture over a picture, Right. There's a section where I have to basically set the time on a clock tower, right? And by setting the time on the clock tower, I change it from day to evening, right?
Yeah.
Which means I can basically then use a star to light up a lamp, which sounds weird.
It's sort of like backwards ass point and click logic.
Well, it kind of isn't. See, the way to set the time on the clock tower, they have pictures with what you need to do, but it doesn't. But all the pictures, the writing on it is like tiny writing, and probably not in English or any other language, just like squiggles. And around the 2x2 grid, there's like faint illustrations that you can barely make out, and nothing of them actually helps you in any way. You can't click on them, you can't do anything, it's just decoration. I'm like, okay, so I have to look at this thermometer, and I have to somehow put the thermometer over a fire by matching pictures together, so the thermometer gets to a certain temperature. Then I have to quickly move it and turn it into the clock so it doesn't actually cool down again. Then I have to take this other needle and somehow get it to this angle, and then match that with the thermometer needle, and then I've got the time that I can put onto the clock, and then I've got this, and then it's evening time, and I can see the star, and then I have to focus in on this moon that's on this globe. And
you know what you sound like, Rob?
What?
A weirdo at the back of the bus who's just muttering nonsense to themselves.
Yeah, or like a conspiracy nut. I sound like QAnon, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
So the moon is actually a lamp on some lad's desk, and this lad, he's also another lad who's involved in a war.
Yeah.
It's that sort of game.
So there's some good stuff this month, I think, but
there's some good stuff, but I think just, be careful with some of these games, pretty as they may be. I think Gorogoa is one of those games where if you let it, it will sink its teeth into you, and it won't let go until you finish the game.
Has it done that with you?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you have to figure it out. You have to solve the puzzle, otherwise it will annoy you.
Yeah, I don't think Gris has done that to me. I don't think I care enough, which is a pity.
I didn't care enough about Gorogoa. I was just like, oh, this is pretty. Oh, right, I wish I had instructions. Damn you, I care now. Why did you make me care?
Yeah, well, the girl with the falling hand and the bricks and the man who eats apples that are moon-shaped I don't know what's happening.
So, yeah, like I said, some bizarre voodoo going on over October. Maybe Halloween related, maybe not.
So, yeah, that's it for this month, I guess.
Yeah. So, let us know what you guys have been playing over October. Has anyone been playing a lot of Halloween games? A lot of horror and supernatural games? Because that's usually what people end up playing a lot of during October. So, if you have, recommend some to us. Some of the not normal recommendations, I think we'll say.
Yeah, because we kind of go a bit deep on horror stuff here on the Geek Show and on Monthly Marmalade. We're horror fans, we know our stuff.
We know our horror games. So if you've got a good horror game that's off the beaten track, then let us know. If you've liked this video, then give us a thumb, a sub, or a bell. And if you want to show your support, then you can check out our Patreon. The details are in the description.
Yes, with the Patreon, we have new stuff that we will be launching in the new year, which we're very excited about. So look forward to that.
Yes. If you're after more video game chit-chat, then you can subscribe and join us every Thursday for Impossible Mission, where we'll be talking about various interesting topics relating to video games.
Yes. So until then, thank you very much for watching.